Baby, it's time to ride the funk train, and we are super stupid happy. We're over here hitting ourselves over the head with billy clubs and brass knuckles because we're so happy to bring to you today an OG. Now, I've always called this dude a programming pimp. Like, I imagine he goes into nerd bars and computer programming bars, and there's all sorts of women, nerdy women. You know the ones I like. You know, they look like golf chicks with the black glasses. I bet the girls buy him drinks when he walks in because this mother effer, he signs Klax boxes with gold ink, and we're talking about the man who created a lot of people's favorite game. And this is why I'm wearing the pimp hat, the space pimp hat, because this is in honor of David Dentt today, because this really is giving me a headache because it's a little tight. But he's the guy that probably made one of the best games, or one of the most beloved games in the 7800 library. It is Ninja Golf, and one of the first hopes of life, signs of life that the 7800 may ride again. We're talking about behind my shoulder over here, Klax. That was discovered about 12 years after the last 7800 game was released. A guy named Lee Kruger from Rescue Soft found this in a dumpster behind a gentleman's club near the wharf, along with Sentinel, and he released those two games back in the early aughts, and people could finally enjoy David Dentt's work on Klax as people were rocking and rolling with Ninja Golf. Now, I would say posthumously now, I know you go to Toledo high schools and stuff, but that's a word means after its death. I think Ninja Golf is the killer app for the Atari 7800. Food Fight probably was during the run, but would you agree that posthumously? Oh, I messed it up. I went to Toledo too many times. I missed it. Would you agree that that may be the case, that a lot of people bought Atari systems because of Ninja Golf?
Oh yeah, well yeah, especially in more recent times. I know when I got back into the 7800, when I got back into the 7800 and the 2010s, 2010s, that was one of the first games I bought was Ninja Golf, because I wasn't aware of it back in the day. And I think, like we talked about before, I had like 4 or 5 7800 games was all I had back in the day. And all I knew was they were really cool and they looked a lot better than the 2600 stuff. But looking into it later, Ninja Golf was probably the game I had to have. So, ever since then, it's had a special place for me. And I'm sure a lot of people's experience is the same with the 7800.
I would agree. And do you want to bring him on now, or do we want to talk about some other stuff real quick first, or how do you want to shoot the shot?
You know what? Let's bring David in.
All right.
Let's get rolling on this.
Get this cuss in here. This so.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. David Dentt.
Ta-da.
Hey, David.
Good
there
afternoon.
He is. How you doing?
I'm fine. Glad to see you guys dressed up for the occasion.
Well, one of us did. One of us got the memo. Thank you again for being on the show. This is a hoot for me. And I've had one of your interviews up on my website, which is Atari7800forever.com, for about 20 years. And it was an old interview that you gave a guy named John K. Harvey. I don't even know if you remember who that was or doing the interview, but he had a lot of sense of humor in it. And it actually came with Rescue Soft's version of Klax. And you talked about some stuff with Klax and stuff, but John is a big fanboy. In fact, he's got posters of you above his bed and stuff like that. We won't talk about
the
that.
Ceiling.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Go ahead and ask away, John.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. I'm excited to have you here, David, and I'm a huge fan of Ninja Golf, as we talked about a little bit before. And I think the first thing we have to ask, and the main thing people want to know, is how did Ninja Golf come to be?
Basically, we had a meeting at Blue Sky, which was relatively new when I joined, and someone from Atari was talking about what games we should do, and he kind of offhandedly said, well, sports games are popular, ninja games are popular. How about Ninja Golf? And that was it. That was what we got. And then we huddled up afterwards and made it as we went along.
Wow. And so the memo came down. They said Ninja's popular, golf's popular, and then they passed it off to you to do the programming for.
Yep. You always got to appreciate a really good game spec that lays it all out for you.
See, now in the old interview, I noticed that you worked on Mean 18 Ultimate Golf too, right?
I didn't do anything really significant. I kind of dabble. Maybe a little Mike did that one. And I don't know if he likes using his real name or not. He used a pseudonym when he had credits on the games, but his first real name was Mike, and he was the senior programmer there. And that was a pretty good little game for the 7800.
Oh yeah, it was fire. And that Blue Sky did that one too?
Yeah.
Oh wow. So so they were really they were sitting out a lot of the work to be subcontracted, I guess, at the end of the 7800's life, right?
I'm trying to remember as I sit here, there were maybe a half a dozen. If you can find the website under the Internet Archive, there's a list of the 7800 games. And there's Map Mania. There was the golf game. There was Xenophobe. There was I can't remember the name of it. There was a Junkyard Dog.
Scrapyard Dog.
Scrapyard Dog. Wow.
Yeah, Scrapyard Dog. Thank you. Anyway, there's probably a half a dozen 7800 games that we did, and that was our entry into doing video games as a company.
And so you started off doing 7800 games exclusively, or did you do other systems too?
It was 7800 for Atari.
Oh, how cool! Well, that makes me and John happy. We're kind of dorky over the 7800. But what made you guys decide to? And I think I know the answer to this, but instead of making a Mean 18 Ultimate, kind of more of a golf sim, and then it turning into the fighting game. It's a real simplistic golf game. Was it just the limitations of the graphics or the RAM that you couldn't combine Mean 18 with a fighting game?
Well, the Ninja Golf basically, like I said, was evolved as we did it. And you can't, I remember reading reviews about there's not enough golf in the golf game. And it's like, well, you've got so much memory, you've got so much, resource to deal with. And we did what we could do. And, you could not have all those fabulous gophers and attack birds and other things. And instead we just, you swing the club and that's it. That's your golf.
What's crazy, though, is I wrote a guide to how to beat Ninja Golf. Now, John is better than I am because he said backstage he's actually beat the kamikaze mode, which seems impossible to me. But even though you say you shouldn't, there's not a lot of golf in Ninja Golf. You've got to play the game like a golf game, though, because if you fight too much, you're just going to get your butt kicked, and there's no way you're going to make it through the game. So you've got to hit the ball and basically run like hell and avoid everything instead of trying to rack up a bunch of points killing ninjas, or you're just not going to make it to the final green. Would you agree with that?
There's some ball positioning as you do the hitting, but the comment that I remember was, why can't you choose different clubs? It's not like, well, that's just, useless in this game.
It's an arcade game. It's an arcade game. It doesn't need to have any more than that. I think those people are silly.
Yeah, and it works great the way you did it. I mean, because it's easy to pick up. I think anybody could really understand it. You have the mechanic where you wait for the marker to go as far as you can and try to hit it, but if you let it go too far, it comes back, closer to you. So it works out brilliantly, I think. And that
one thing about straight up golf games is that the controls can sometimes be a little bit difficult to get a grip on and to master. And this is primarily a ninja game, so it's like a ninja / golf game as opposed to a golf / ninja game. So seems to me like the balance is about right, but hey, everybody gets their opinion.
Yeah, I just think everybody likes being critical because critics can't do, so they just sit back and they bitch. Basically, is what they do. Now, I would like to say that Ninja Golf is one of my favorite games for the system, and it's my favorite system. It's John's favorite system, and he agrees the same way. So, congratulations! I mean, you're one of our, you've made one of the best games for the system, in our opinion. I got a couple questions. I know it's been a long time. That's Klax, you dumbass.
I'm doing it.
Okay, all right. So, couple questions here. I'm confused. One of the things that frustrates me about Ninja Golf is it seems like the power-ups are extremely random, and you're almost to beat the game. Because there's, help me out, John, since you've done so good here. There's an extra man. There's a warp.
Oh yeah.
There's shields, and what else? There's
health.
another.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big and small health. Yep.
Okay, that's right. Because there's like a potion, and then there's like a
med kit,
a first aid kit. Those seem pretty rare and random. Are there any tricks? Are they hidden more? Because I was telling John the other day,
pop up when they feel like popping up.
Okay. So I thought I kept getting them in the woods, and I was telling John, you got to go to the woods. Go to the woods. And then after I told him that, they weren't popping up as much. So they're just totally random.
Yeah. Is there a percentage given to each? Like this is more likely to appear than...
I don't remember, to be honest. That would be
Gotcha.
A reasonable conclusion. I'd have to go back. I used to actually have a copy of the code lying around, and then after I moved a couple of times, it probably walked away.
Yeah.
If you ever find that, I'd be interested in having that. By the way, that would be awesome. I'll give you. I got another hat that looks like this one. I'll give you for it.
If I can find a copy of it, I'll make a copy of it and figure out how to send it off to you. By the way, useless trivia. I told this to someone else once. There was a joke running around the office at the time we were doing about comedy being hard. Somebody made a classic line about, this is easy, comedy is hard, or something like that. Anyway, at the top of the code, there's a little line in the comments that says, comedy is easy, Ninja Golf is hard.
Yeah, that's in your old interview too. I love that line. I think that needs to be a T-shirt, man. I mean,
that's a great line. Yeah,
yeah,
that could have been the tag for the game. Really,
it is, and it also is kind of a comedic game too. I mean, it is a preposterous. It lies in the silly universe there. But you said you've never beat the game. You would only play it in stages as you were testing the code. Is that correct?
I never beat the whole game.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy.
The thought that someone can beat it on Kamikaze just freaks me out.
There's some guys. John's really good, but there's some guys, man, especially if you get Asian dudes involved, that they could probably beat the game in 8 seconds, and you're like, what? It's amazing what some of these cats can do.
That's a concern when you're doing a game, is how to, figure out where is the limit on how hard to make it. Because if you use yourself as a gauge, it's like, I'm not a great game player. I'm okay and maybe better than average at some games, but that would be a low cap compared to the best people out there. So you just kind of push it and hope you don't make it impossible. Like a certain video game I remember that was on the system that was literally impossible.
Yeah, there you go.
Possible in the name, maybe.
Yes.
So how many people worked on Ninja Golf with you? Was it just you, or...
I was the programmer. There was an XE version that I don't remember if it even officially got released. And then there were 2 artists that did some part-time work. There was basically a full-time artist that went between 2 or 3 games. And then there was an assistant guy that did lots of things. He did a little art. He did a little on music. And there was maybe a half an artist involved.
That's crazy. Because today, the games that come out today have,
incredible crews.
Yeah, absolutely. The crew's the size of movie crews anymore, and to think this brilliant game was done with essentially 3 people. It sounds like 3 or 4 people.
Yeah,
is amazing to me.
Here's a useless little piece of trivia for you. When you see text on the screen, someone had to come up with a font to do that. And I was doing that, and then I couldn't figure out how to do an M. And I sat down with the artist, and we actually spent time trying to figure out how to do an M. And there was no way to do it within the constraints that we had. So an M actually takes up 2 slots because that was the only way to do it.
Wow.
So what with 2 ends?
Two holes, I forget how many pixels wide. 7800 had fat pixels, which is a whole other. But
Yeah,
anyway, just
yeah,
think
it
of it as
did.
there's so many pixels for each character, and you can't do an M within that limit. So you basically just for an M had to say, okay, I'm using 2 slots, and then the M was 2 pieces, and you slapped them together.
That sounds like
Oh
my
wow.
first couple of ex-wives there. Yeah, I had some fat pixely women. Well, so were you? This was at the end of the 7800's life, and there were other games coming out. This is interesting to me because I make movies, and I'm my mind is in the zeitgeist of what I'm doing. So I'm kind of like, not only am I worried about my project, but I'm also worried about what kind of effect this is going to have in the universe. So the 7800 was dying, and it was released too late, and it was still plugging along in the 90s. When Nintendo was kicking everybody's ass, and there was the Genesis coming out and all this stuff, what was the expectations of everyone of a game like this?
You
Good
just do what
question.
you could do. I mean, we played other game systems. We had a 7800, and we had I forget what else, but we'd play other games and try and compare them to ours. And are we doing okay? Are we doing terrible? Is this the best we can hope for in this setup? And some of the little things like the color palette tricks on Ninja Golf were a way to try and boost it just a little bit beyond where it had been.
Wow.
Well,
Uh,
tell us about the trick that you did on Ninja Golf. You told me and John beforehand, and I've read about
Okay,
it
when
before.
you're looking at the typical screen, like when there's the mountains in the background, you look at it as a strip, the main play area is a strip, and then there's a status block down at the bottom
mhm.
that shows, your information about how many men, power ups, score, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, there's a limited number of powers in a palette, and as you're drawing in the old days, back in the dinosaur times, we had to worry about the beam on the screen, and as it went back and forth, it would hit off screen. At that point, you could do something and it didn't show up graphically, so you could switch your palette out, and there's basically 3 different palettes being used as you go down
Wow.
the screen: one for the distance, one for the main play area, and then one at the bottom for the status stuff, and that gives you the illusion of more colors. The dragon, the green, is different. It's a whole different mode, and normally people didn't use it very often because it had other
Ah,
restrictions to it. But the reason the dragon looks the way it does is because that mode was used for the green.
okay.
Well, I was
So
going to add that. That's a good. I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off, John,
no, you're
but
fine.
but I outrank you.
Ah,
I One thing that sitting here in 2023, being an a-hole, I would sit there and go, why didn't you make the dragons look different? Was it just, were you guys just tapping out like at least different colors to make it look like it wasn't the same geezer over and over again? Was it just you were just
there's a
pegging out?
limited amount of memory to stick stuff in,
Mm,
Yeah,
and that's more
yeah.
detailed than the other art in the game. And
yeah.
so it'd be nice to have, different dragons or something, but you got
Right.
that. That was all there was room for.
Yeah.
It's still cool. It's still
Oh,
cool.
it looks great.
Yeah.
And then for the top strip, like you brought up, you did it in different strips. It looks like the mountains, excuse me, the mountains and the skies are actually moving at different speeds.
Yeah.
So you were able
The,
to get some parallax
the
scrolling in there?
scrolling is at a different speed. I mean, everything's real primitive, but it gives at least some illusion of, real world ninja golfing.
It
Ju-
is
I-
a simulation, right?
yeah, I just figured it looked like the Olympics that year this came out when the Olympics featured
Well,
Ninja Golf.
the Ninja Golf is great. Again, it's a fantastic 7800 game. It's probably one of the games that people talk about today when they bring up the 7800. It's Ninja Golf and a couple other ones. But I'm curious about your work on Klax.
Well, one last ask him one last thing there, John. Ask him about if he knows about the posthumous cartoon that was online. Is
Oh,
he aware of that?
were you aware of there was a cartoon online? It was what was it, a web comic or a flash?
It's a comic book. It was like a comic strip. It wasn't a
Yeah,
cartoon.
it was based around Ninja Golf. Did you have any involvement with that, or
No,
was that
I haven't heard about that. I know
no?
that there was a a Flash version of Ninja Golf that
Yep.
somebody did. And there was an Ask a Ninja YouTube channel, but
Yep.
I didn't hear about that one.
It's
Okay.
no longer online. I don't think you'd have to go on the Wayback Machine, but there was at least 7 or 8 little stories, and there were
Yeah.
like little dudes walking around, and the art was pretty good. And they had the ninjas would have like golf bags with one club sticking out of the back, and they would talk about different problems in their little universe. Let me ask you this. John and I, the Atari VCS is starting to
Oh yeah, and
take
Ninja
off.
Golf is available on there too.
Yeah, it is. It lives again on a new system. I don't know if that's cool to you or not, but if you buy the Atari VCS, the new VCS, not the old one.
Yeah.
If Atari decides to commission Sneaky Box or some other developer to do a Ninja Golf recharge, because they're doing recharge games of these old Atari properties, would they have to get an okay through you, or would you help, or what would you think about that?
I would think Atari, but I don't know for sure. I mean, I was working for Blue Sky Software, so at a minimum it would be them. They're out of business because they were bought out, and we were doing it for Atari, so they would be the next step up that would likely be at. Atari's gone, and so it's like there's so many places that it dead ends that I don't know where the legal rights are anymore.
Atari has to have them now because they did re-release the game. Were you aware that they had re-released it on the Atari VCS
as a collection, part of a collection, or
it's on its own as a standalone game for $2.99, I think, $3.99.
The Atari VCS is a new system that Atari has just released about 3 years ago.
Yep.
And it's an internet it's kind of like just a Linux computer, but it has an Atari interface. And for geeks like me and John, we really love it. And there's Atari type games on it, and there's some other things on it too that you can buy. You can watch YouTube on it, and you can actually use it as a computer, and there's stuff like that. Yep. But you can buy old Atari 7800 games and 2600 games, and they're like $2.99 or $3.99, and it's a way to play it on a modern system. So it's kind of cool, and the graphics are really sharp and stuff like that. So
sounds good.
It lives again. It lives again.
Lives again. Yep.
Hey, Jesse's in here. He says, "Afternoon, dudes. Good afternoon, my friend.
How you doing, Jesse?"
By the way, another little quick useless piece of information about Ninja Golf. There's a hidden. Somebody actually found this. I mentioned it somewhere along the way. There's a hidden controller test. At the time I was doing it, I put it in as, a visible part, and they said, no, we don't want that. And I said, okay, I'll hide it.
Yep.
So there's a hidden controller test. I mentioned that, and somebody figured out how to do it after I'd long forgotten how to get to it.
I'm not sure who figured it out, but I included it on one of my videos on my channel, 7800 Easter eggs and cheat codes. So it's becoming more widely known today. And it's a great utility too.
I don't know what it is. What do you do with it?
It just shows you how your controllers work. That way you can verify, because the 7800 controller was not great. It was just, adequate. And so having something that will visually show you, left, right, up, down knobs, that was useful to me.
And it works on both controllers too, which is useful. So you could test 2 at the same time.
Well, so is it just a test for Ninja Golf, or is it for the entire system?
No, it's just for your system to test your controller.
So what's cool is now that we have all these peripheral and the people that like this Ed Ladden controller that I've got, that I'm always talking about, you could sit that up there, get into the test, and see how that's comparing to maybe all the joypads and stuff people have put out too, right? And see how active
you could put it on there and see, especially for the Ed Ladden, the 78 whatever that one's called. You could see which buttons are on which side, which ones are the 2-player ones, which one's the 1-player buttons and stuff. So it does have utility today. It's a good thing you included, honestly. And you can actually, if your controller is a little wonky, it's not working great, you could test it out on the Ninja Golf.
Well, that's neat. See, that I thought it was just, I didn't know what the hell it was. I just thought it was something a bunch of nerds use to talk to each other, but it's actually something that you could sit there. So what it is, like, is my controller screwed up?
Basically.
You could see, that's nice.
Hey, Jerome.
somebody called you Pro, me Vin, and they called David Dentt Ninja. What's up, my ninja?
I guess our names are off here.
Yeah,
there we go. Yeah, we have David Dentt on today, guys. He's the creator of Ninja Golf, Klax, and I'll put up the banner so you guys can see what else. There you go.
Jerome says, is Rampage a $200 game? No. You know what's funny?
It might be actually complete.
Well, I'm just saying it's not worth it. What's funny? Now, this is what's funny, Jerome. You're going to think this is weird. There's a guy named Ivory Tower Collections in the chat right now, and he actually helped review Rampage for my website, the Atari 7800. And I've always thought he overblew Rampage. I was like, hey, Rampage is fun, but it's not that fun. But he gave it like a 4.5, and I was like, okay, boss, whatever you say. But yeah, I wouldn't pay $200 for Rampage, man.
Rampage is a fun game, but you know what else is a fun game?
What?
Klax. Yeah.
I like Klax.
I like Klax.
You know what? It's the 90s, and it's time for Klax, which may be the worst. That's the worst tagline.
I gotta reset my calendar.
Yeah,
right.
But it's time for Klax, everybody.
There we go.
Yeah, there it is. Now this is an awesome. This was made very well, Dave. You should be very Mr. Dentt.
Mr. Dentt.
You should be very proud.
Well, and you worked on this port of Klax, right?
Yes.
Mr. Dentt. Now, what happened with it? Because it was not actually released, correct?
Actually, this is the third game I did. I worked on Cyberball second, and then someone came in and said they wanted to do Klax. And at first, I wasn't really excited. I mean, I liked the Klax game in the arcade. I played it, but it seemed like 7800. It was like there's other versions. What's the point? And they talked me into it. One of the things I said was it needs to be, a really basic whatever, because you don't have that much to work with. Anyway, I got talked into doing it, and I did it, and that led to the 3 extra levels that made me feel like I've contributed something.
Time out on the play. So I'm a jock, nerd, like musician, punk, a-hole combination.
I must make for a great business card.
It is. My business card is like a bunch of like bail bonds, movie make. But anyway, so you were making a Cyberball for the 7800?
We worked for there was a system called Lynx. It was a portable about the same time Game Boy was out. It was actually a decent system. It had a really great development environment. And I think Atari bought it from somebody else. I don't remember the backstory on that. But anyway, we made Cyberball. We had the arcade Cyberball and had to do a lot of testing to make sure that we were doing as best we could. But anyway, that was the second game that I had.
Oh, I love Cyberball. I used to have it. Cyberball tournament or Cyberball. There was like a futuristic year for the Lynx. I used to have that. That's awesome.
So you did Ninja Golf and then Cyberball, and then Klax was actually your third.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
And I don't even remember why they were so anxious to do it. They probably got some special deal or something. I mean, who knows?
Well, looking back, as the system's dead now, there was no puzzle games for the 7800.
Yeah,
and
none.
Probably somebody was like, you know what? Girls like Tetris. Why don't we do, we own Klax, so why don't we do, but the problem was Klax is much more advanced or difficult than Tetris is to understand.
There's a lot going on in Klax, that's for sure. Well, I guess let's start from the beginning. So Klax came down from Atari and they said, here, make this. They desperately want it.
Yeah, they were hot to do it. And I got talked into doing it, and they sent down a copy of the, game code to basically supposedly help out. I mean, from my point of view, it was just useful for all the level information. I mean, the code is of no value because you're using a, significantly simpler system, but I pulled out all of the levels. So, it's hopefully accurate to that. I mean, again, I'm not a great player on a lot of these games that I did, but I tried to make sure it was good as best I could.
It's great.
It turned out fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of mind blowing that it's on the 7800. Did you design 100 different levels or more by hand?
Well, once you have all of the art and mechanics, it's just a matter of a few tables that say this level you have to do this, and then you just start dumping out the tiles. I mean, with the exception of the special levels, one of them intentionally does something a little different, but that's a whole other thing.
So are the tiles random with percentages?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So now I didn't realize this. You came up with 3 impossible levels in the 7800 version of Klax that is unique to the Pro system, and it's
Yeah.
not. Wow, I didn't know. I thought that was something that somebody else came up with.
It's not on any of the other versions of it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, cool.
And I don't know if anybody ever got to it on the regular cartridge, but I put out MAME versions of the levels so that people could get to them.
Oh,
What?
awesome.
Oh, I would love to see that. Now I know one is you have to have multiple clacks hit at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to remember last night because I haven't done it in so long. But there was one that was the problem was that you needed to do multiple claxes and you would do something else before what you wanted to do. And the solution ended up being you can actually pull back on the handle and adjust the speed of the fall. So that gave you the capability to do something you wouldn't be able to do normally. There was one that was point related. I think that was the last one where the hint was, I'm going to cheat now. And basically, as you drop the stuff down, it's pulling back the points that it gives you. And the only way to do it was to do an exact tile. The setup was such that it would give you a, X point clacks when it dropped a particular tile in. So you had to sit there and hold onto the tiles until you got the one you needed for the big pull down. And that was the one where it basically had to pay attention to what it was giving you on the game.
Gotcha. So when did you become aware that Klax wasn't going to come out, that your hard work was basically might not be seen ever?
It was a foreshadowing of the Superman game, I think. I don't know. Sometimes that just happens, and all you can do is sort of throw your hands up and say, oh, well, I got the paycheck. I'm moving on.
There you go.
Are you excited? Are you happy that people play it nowadays, and
Yeah.
there are cart versions out, and at least they can enjoy them?
I mean, when you put out something you think is at least decent, if not really good, and you've even hidden something in it, you want people to be able to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to find these special levels now.
Well, I think in the video that's playing, if you there was a memo in the game somewhere, and it told you if you get a large X in levels 6 or 11, it would warp you.
There's a couple of shortcuts. I don't remember them, but if you get particular claxes at particular points, it jumps you ahead. It's like a warp.
I think,
that was the only way I could ever see anybody getting there.
Is a Klax the big X? Is that right? Or
Klax is so many in a row of whatever type you need to do. It tells you each level you need to get this. That's your goal.
So it's three in a row, I guess, right? Is that
horizontal, vertical, or the big X is a warp?
Yeah, and then there's the big T thing that you can make, gives you tons of points too.
Oh yeah,
but it is. See, somebody just did the big X on the screen. I don't know what.
Yeah, that was from me. That was from me earlier. So I finally made it to the warp.
You're at level 50. Oh, you can warp now. You're at level 61. You can go up to level 61.
Is that exclusive to the 7800? You put that in just
the level and shortcut stuff should all be consistent. That's what's the data tables I got were good for, to make it consistent with the original.
Okay. I got you.
Okay.
I got you.
So
Klax is fun. Somebody in the chat just said Klax looks fun. It is fun. It's not. You can't just sit there with your pants around your ankles and smoking a doobie like you can with Tetris. It is a little bit of a mental knife fight.
Yeah.
It's cagey. You can't just horse around with it.
And by the way, since the question came up online, I assume it's known now. But if you look down at the base, there's a DAD and a JAH. The dad's me, and the JAH was the artist, Jerry.
Oh, I
okay.
didn't know that.
I was wondering about that.
I
Yeah.
just thought somebody really liked their dad.
Ah,
Um, well, that's really cool.
It
So,
is.
the artwork, spaceship, forest, that's pretty consistent with the Atari arcade version, correct?
well, there's a limited number of backgrounds you've got room for, again, because of the system limitations. So the artist did, I forget how many, maybe 4 different backgrounds, and he just kept using those. But they look decent. So
Yeah, they look good. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
I never played the. I remember when Klax came out in the arcade, and I thought, I'm only here for a little while. I'm not playing a puzzle game at the arcade, but it is a good sit
It-
on your butt at home and with, you know,
it's
on
a
the
great game
sofa.
to play at home. Absolutely. When I enjoy puzzle games, especially when you don't feel like being a ninja or golfing. It's enjoyable. So do you want to cover anything else with Clax, or should we find out a
uh,
little bit more about after?
can't think of anything off the top. I mean, if you have pressing Clax questions, I can try and answer them.
Well, it is now the '90s. We got to get ready for this.
All
This
right.
invasion of these Klaxes. Is there any, to your knowledge? I've just always been fascinated with human beings' obsession over falling bricks. Like, why do we care about Tetris? Why do we care about Klax? Do you have any idea where the paranoia of, oh my God, these bricks are coming down the pike, we got to figure it out and put them in correct stacks? And do you have any idea where that came from, or is that just something
I have no actual knowledge, but if I had to guess off the top of my head, I would say it came from Japan at some point because
there
all
There you
truly
go.
strange things start in Japan for some reason.
There you go. And
Well, Russia was the one that came out with Tetris. I don't know if you
That's
saw
yeah,
true.
that movie that came
yeah,
out. That was God, getting that game to the masses was like a
it
CIA
was
operation. That was
that
insane.
was insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jesse says there. Clax is in line with the rest of the 7800 main board because there's initials hidden all over that too. So
Now, what's a
there,
main board, Jesse? Is that you're talking about the thing in the green board inside the 7800? Is that what he's talking about?
I think he's
Or on
talking
the
about this.
cartridges?
Could be both.
Yeah, he'll
Um,
answer here in a second.
yeah, he'll answer. So very, very cool. I mean, I'm glad to have Clax myself on the 7800. I think that's another great game that you worked on.
Oh, I've got a question for him. You've signed um some Klax boxes in gold ink. Do you remember that?
Yeah, when Rescue Soft came up with Clax, they contacted me,
Oh wow.
and I think they did a interview of some sort. Anyway, the guy said, "Would you mind signing some boxes?" I said, "Sure," and he sent me a bunch of boxes, and I got a pen, and that's why there's autographed boxes out there,
How
Oh
which is
many
a
wow.
little weird, but
how many you think you signed?
it was either 50 or 100, I think. I don't
Okay.
remember.
So if you have a signed box, then you got
Well,
something special there.
you know what just happened a few months ago. I've always wanted a signed Klax box.
Yeah,
And
it'd be
because
cool to
I
have.
always thought David Dentt was so cool because I was like, only pimps writing gold, man. So I mean, that dude, and I was like, he's a badass. So I've always wanted one, and I think on eBay about 5 months ago, one went. Correct me if I'm wrong, John, because I think we talked about this. I think one went for 12.
It went for a lot. I know.
Was it 1,200?
It could be. It
Uh,
it, it went for enough that David, you might want to get another gold pen and start
Yeah, I was
signing.
going to say I can go down to the store and get a gold pen and you can find a Clax
You
box.
you might want to put out another
I'm
50 or 100, and you
I'm
might.
so glad he figured that out. He just, hey there, buddy. All you got to do is, hell, I can get a gold pen now that I think about it. Never mind. Never mind. Don't think
Now,
about that.
now we have a
Um,
good question here from Azathoth, who
what?
asked, this may have been answered already, but beyond Clax, did you work on any other canceled 7800 games or any games beyond the 7800?
Yeah, the one that comes to mind is the PSX Superman. Any video game fan knows that N64 Superman is rated as one of the worst video games ever. And you can find
Yes.
videos from Titus's standpoint saying that there were reasons and, ignoring all of that. N64 was, obviously not a great game at best. So there was going to be a PSX version. We worked on it for quite a while. It actually got finished. It got approved. It was ready to go. And then the licensing had fallen apart, so it never got
Oh, wow.
released. So I have a copy of it somewhere laying around.
Oh, wow.
And there
I
was
want
a
that too.
company, I can't remember the name of the company. I talked with somebody that did stuff, old PSX Museum, or
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
remember. Anyway, they talked to me a little about it, and I gave them some information. I might even send a disc to them.
Oh,
But
wow.
anyway,
But go ahead.
I have a question. So this was the infamous Nintendo 64 version of Superman, and you guys were trying to do a polished up version for the PlayStation 1.
a
basically.
decent version, a step up from theirs would be a decent version.
Gotcha.
And by the way, speaking of their version, I played their version a lot while we were working on ours. I managed to get towards the end of the game. I could not finish it. So I
Wow.
called up Nintendo and I said, I'm trying to finish the game. And I swear to you, the guy said, at first, we didn't think it was possible to finish either. And then he told me what you had to do to get through it, and I was able to.
Wow.
It was just, it was horrible.
And
Well, that's people all the time talk about designing video games has to be one of the best jobs in the world. And I've told everybody, I said, look, we all play Skyrim. We all play Mario. We all play Zelda. There's 85,000 piece of crap, terrible games, to be a game tester that are just awful and don't quite work right. And there's something wrong with the user interface. I would imagine having to play Superman 64 for work would be basically like digging a ditch.
Imagine a guy in the room next to you screaming all the time. And every time you look in there, he's wringing his fists in the air and that's what the experience was like. I felt like it was my duty to finish the game, and I barely made it out alive.
You poor man.
There are people now who embrace they embrace the kitsch. They embrace that it's terrible, and then they kind of flip it up. It's almost like a B movie where they kind of flip it upside down, and they enjoy the hot mess.
I was watching some video the other day about worst movie ever made, and Plan 9 always comes up, and the guy made that point that Plan 9 is a bad movie, but it's not really like the worst movie ever because it has this certain likability and humor to it, and that kind of changes the calculus of what's bad and what's not.
Yeah, so I make movies, and you have to be. There's such a thing as a bad movie that is so bad it's good. There are movies that are so much worse than Plan 9 from Outer Space. Like there's one from the same group of guys called it had Tor the Wrestler. It was called, I think, The Beast of Yucca Flats. And it's basically a big shirtless dude walking around the desert for 90 minutes, just walking. And I mean, but it's so bad nobody enjoys it. So there's a million games nobody plays. Because nobody's interested in it. It's the Superman license, which brought it was the milkshake that brought all the boys to the yard. So that's why people know. It's like people trash E.T. all the time. E.T., that poor man, Mr. Scott, made that thing in 6 weeks or something to coincide with the movie release. And it's not that bad of a game. I liked it when I was a kid. I was about 7 or 8 when it came out. And it's not the worst game of all time. I mean, there's at least 300 to 2,600 games worse than ET.
Yeah.
Like Bugs and all the off-brand goofiness and all the religious ones and all that stuff. They were unbearable. So,
hey, I got a question. If you don't mind me going off topic just for a moment.
Go for it.
Since you're a movie guy, there was a movie I forget how many years ago with a name something like Starship 2. Rendezvous with Rama or something like that. Anyway, it was an independent movie and it was in post-production, and then it just stopped and there was no information about what happened. And to this day, I go looking around to try and find out because it had a lot of famous people cameos in it, and I want to know what the heck happened.
I'll do some research on that. I'll get you an answer because that doesn't with COVID. I'll tell you this. I don't want to make the interview go to a screeching halt. But like with COVID and with this writer's strike and other things get lost in the production, and things become unviable. And I'll tell you one interesting caveat about movies is movies are now a big risk. You know, Wonder Woman 1984 lost a lot of money because the theaters weren't open and nobody went to go pay a ticket to see Gil Gadot bounce around in that awesome outfit. You know, we all sat and looked at it at home and watched it at home and was bored to tears because it was a terrible movie. But they lost a lot. So there's a lot of projects that start and they pour some money into and they cut it out because they want a tax write-off. That just happened recently in the DC universe with Batgirl, I think. It actually had Michael Keaton reprising Batman's role in it. And people were excited about it, but it was made for TV. They couldn't release it in a theater. They weren't excited about really finding a home for television. So they just nixed it. So they poured tens and tens of millions of dollars in this thing. And that became a tax write-off for that production house. So something like that could have happened easily with a small science fiction or a B movie like that.
I'll tell you, Vinny will look into it and he'll let you know. He's the movie guy.
Okay, cool. By the way, steering back towards topic, there was a comment down there about the fog and Superman. And I got to say, the fog was a problem, but in the list of problems with that game, that was pretty low on the list.
Yeah. That there was a lot wrong with that game.
I just think that generation did not age well. I knew playing them. I was like, Nintendo 64 has some good stuff and PlayStation 1, but these games all suck compared to the previous generation.
Right.
And obviously the next generation, which would be the GameCube and the PS2 and the Dreamcast, it just kicked the crap out of those. And even the Genesis and Super Nintendo stuff was better than that era.
Well, they perfected the 2D stuff before it, and then they were kind of learning 3D, and then yeah.
We had issues at Blue Sky doing the transition from 2D to 3D, and I guess that's just part of the learning process.
Oh wow,
absolutely. Yeah, I remember the guy that made Shadows of the Empire for the Nintendo 64, and he was like, we're here making a Nintendo 64 game, and this is supposed to be this awesome, and it's really a cool game, even though it struggles visually and stuff. But he's like, I've never thought about what you do when someone's spinning around in 3D. He goes, what does the feet do? So, like, they were the first people ever to spin a person in a 360 degree. And he's like, what did the feet do? You know, they look like a goofy duck. And, so, I mean, there were things they had to figure out back then.
Absolutely. To anybody just joining, we have David Dentt with us, creator of Ninja Golf, Klax, Blue Sky Software employee formerly, and happily retired currently. So we've gone over. Go ahead, David.
No, I was just saying, yay to the retired.
I bet. I can't wait for my retirement personally. But we talked about the 7800 stuff. We talked about your PlayStation unreleased Superman port. You had nothing to do with the N64 port, correct? You just played it?
No.
Good. So
I was a tester.
A tester. There you go. What else did you work on in your career?
After Blue Sky, I went and worked at Heavy Water for a while. We did PlayStation Home stuff, and I forget how many. There was a Raptor underwater level based on a video, a story/video game that I wasn't involved in. That people like that were game sci-fi fans. Anyway, I worked on that apartment. And there was a famous glitching error. This goes back to hidden stuff or semi-hidden stuff. There was a glitching error in Home where you could place an object and get it to warp to another spot because of the hit testing. And so the boss wanted to do something with that to get from one area to another in the house. And so that was put in the game. And to me, that wasn't satisfying. So I made a doable way to get there in case the glitch disappeared in a future version. And it was basically a matter of going and touching a few locations in sequence. So it was like the counterpart of a keypad cheat. And you went to these 4 places, and I put that in, and I thought nobody's ever going to know about this. So I got online and made a comment in somebody's video. I said, hey, do you know that if you do this, 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 and this, that it'll open up that gate? And so that way I got it leaked out into the public, and people at least knew there was some legitimate way to do it.
And what game was
Wow.
this for?
The Raptor, the underwater home.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Wow.
Well, that's cool. I never thought about developers just sitting there waiting for somebody to figure it out, and they're just like, hey, on their little burner account, they're like, I don't know where I heard this, but it was written
I was
on the
just sitting around, and I accidentally did this.
It was written on a bathroom stall in Wichita Falls, Texas, and I went home and tried it, and lo and behold, that's pretty cool.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah, you don't think of that stuff, but yeah, you're probably waiting for somebody to find it, and you got tired of waiting and said, let me just put this out here.
We have programmers we interview, and they're like, I'm waiting, the game's been out for 6 years, and they're like, I'm waiting for somebody to figure it out. And I'm like, man, at this point, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
It happened, but we won't reveal the secret because you asked us not to.
Yeah, right. So then you did that, and then what about most recently you retired from Retroactive Studios, is that correct?
Let's see here. I'm pulling up my old resume, which has a little bit of dust on it, but
yeah, you don't have much need for that anymore, huh?
I did Heavy Water, and that was the post-apocalyptic apartment, the BioShock apartment, LeChuck's pirate ship, the Tron, which wasn't really an apartment, it was more of an environment, and then there were some miscellaneous things that we did, but those were the main points. After that, I went to Retroactive Games, which was mentioned earlier. And this was basically myself and Tom that we talked about pre-interview, and some other people. It was like we gathered a bunch of people together that had been doing games and arcade stuff. And we did a few things. We did an arcade game. We did a couple of home games. That was when phone apps were just starting to become something. And I don't think any of that ever really went anywhere, but it was a chance to do stuff and work with some other people, and worked on another arcade game after that called Lightning Streak. I don't know if that ever was released. And then the last thing was at Zowie, and did a couple of things there. I mean, at that point, it was just, like entertainment. You've been doing that for all these years, and you want to do something. And so that's what I did with my time for a while. That goes back to I was taking care of my dad at that point. I moved in with him, and he was in the last few years of his life. And so I spent most of my time with that. And then in my spare time, I actually did one really simple casual game that nobody else has ever thought of, which I still to this day don't understand, but I sit around and twiddle my thumbs and wait for somebody to think of this idea because it seems really simple, but so far, nobody has, so I'll keep sitting on it, and someday I'll either find a way to get it released or someone else will think of it. And
release it on a 7800, man.
There you go.
There's a huge homebrew universe right here.
Are you aware, David, of the homebrew community around the 7800?
Not in particular. When I did the 7800, hack for the impossible levels, I had to look up a little about the encoding or whatever to make them 7800 playable, but that was about as far into that as I ever got. I mean, I knew the basic layout of the code because I'd written it, so I knew where to go poke and change. But
let me tell you something. Let me appeal to you. You have done many things across many platforms, but in the realm and the universe of the Atari 7800, sir, you are a god. Now, phone apps and PlayStations and arcades, they do not remember you. What the people that love you, my friend. It's like when David Hasselhoff, when Baywatch got canceled, and they were like, they love you in Germany, and they were like, how much? And that's when he went over there with the Knight Rider car, and he started lip syncing songs in his booty shorts in Germany and Berlin. That's what you got to do. You're like, the 7800 people will gobble whatever I do up. So if you ever want to start doing a 6502 game, there's a lot of stuff. Even me and John are not tech people. This guy, my friend in here from Ivory Tower Collections, some guys in here are programming wizards, but like you spit out some stuff for the 7800, man, and watch it fly off into the sunset.
Oh, yeah.
People will worship at your feet.
Well, that's the thing, and developers who are working on it now, doing the homebrew scene and stuff. Well, when I brought up to them that we were bringing David Dentt on here, they said, "Oh my God, the Ninja Golf guy!" I mean, people know you and love you here on the 7800 community.
Absolutely, yeah. What you did was not in vain, my friend.
No, absolutely not.
It's nice that there's some people that like that stuff. I was thinking while you were talking about when I went to Heavy Water, I was doing something with somebody and I got to talking about things I had done in the past, and I showed them Ninja Golf, and some kid walked in, took one look and said, "That's a horrible game. Take a look at it." And I said, "You do understand there's a difference between gameplay and graphics, right?" And they didn't understand that. That was something completely lost on them.
Oh, man.
If you're ever bored, go to Atari7800forever.com. That's our website. And you can look. There was 58 original games released for the 7800. There's now we're getting close to 200 games for the system. So there is and most of the bulwark of those have come out in the last 10 years. So there is a community. We had a guy, and the guys make games for the system and they become, small-time legends and stuff. So, I don't know. If you're bored at home and you're like, you know what, I like this game, maybe I'll release it on Steam and the 7800 or something like that and see what happens. Yeah.
And hopefully no one will say it's a steaming pile of
So I think we're getting close to an hour here, and we don't want to take up too much of more of your time there, Mr. Dentt. But looking back on your career, you've done so many things. You worked on the Superman game, like we talked about. You played Superman 64 to the end, which is an accomplishment. Yeah. What are you most proud of looking back on your career? What is it that you really enjoyed doing the most?
Allow me to take a moment to think. Well, 7800 and Ninja Golf, strangely enough, they were early and they were some of the most fun that I had. And, other than people who are fans of the systems, they might not get that much love. But, hey, I thought they were good for what they were, on. And, it's like, hey, here's what you have to work with. What can you do with it? And everybody's got so much, memory and resource and current systems that they're trying to figure out how to throw it all away. And by the way, just as a side comment, it all started because I was an arcade rat as a kid. I loved going to the arcade and playing games. And I went to a technical college early on. And when I was done with that, they said, "Hey, we've got a opening at a game place out in East County. You want to look into that?" And I said, "You bet."
We have a comment here from Jerome. He wants to know, did you have to make Ninja Golf that hard? I don't think it's that hard. I'm surprised everybody or a few people think it's that difficult.
I could get most of the way through it on the easy level. I just couldn't finish it. But
there's some luck. I think like if you get the extra man and the warp and stuff like that, it'll help you out. It's all about whoever's playing Ninja Golf now. John just beat it on Kamikaze mode, and he's probably on his YouTube channel. But you can, it's all about health management. Forget about playing the strokes and stuff like that to get to the hole. Just it's all about protection. Hey, right. I'll read this to you, Mr. Dentt. This is a review. This is the last paragraph of a review of Ninja Golf. So you will know what people feel about this game. This is you got a good score on this one for Ninja Golf, and it says this game is unique and it's a hoot to play. I think it personifies what video games should be, just plain fun. And the Atari programmers hit a hole on this one, using creativity to overcome technical shortcomings of the system in the early 90s to make a title people still gush about today. So I don't know if that makes you feel any better or whatever, but there was a lot of love for this game out there for you.
That's good to hear.
Absolutely.
Well, my friend, thank you so much for being a guest today. And this was one of my what do you call that? Interviews that, God, I can't think. I'm so freaking tired. John, you're from Toledo. You don't have no idea.
I have no idea what you're trying to say.
I'm trying to say some sort of literary device. I can't think of it.
I know talking to the creator of Ninja Golf was something that I never thought I'd be able to do in my lifetime. And again, I'm not a Hollywood guy. I'm not a movie guy. To me, you guys, the programmers, are the movie stars to me. And
oh my God,
being able to talk to you is amazing. So I appreciate the time.
It's getting deep in here.
No problem.
No, man. Mr. Dentt, thank you so much. You know, these games that you made, the Klax. You know, I'll tell you something else too. This is another thing that you might not understand, but I'll try to simplify it the best I can. Is there was about a 15-year period? No, I'm sorry, about a 12-year period that I still like the 7800, even into the 2000s, and nothing was happening. And that when Klax and another game called Sentinel, which there was a PAL version, but there wasn't an NTC. So Lee Kruger, when he released these things through RescueSoft, it was like, oh my God, brand new game for my favorite system. And it was really like your contribution with Klax, even though it was 15 years later. And that was probably when you were designing holographic horse races or something with another company. This was something that you still, like 15 years later, it was like a video game grenade. It came out way after the fact, and a lot of people dug Klax, and it's really arguably the best puzzle game still for the 7800, even though there's been quite a few released.
And before we part ways, David, we got one more question from Jolt 7800. He wants to know, do you do any retro shows or appearances? So in other words, he wants to know, are you doing anything that he can come look up currently?
No, I just hide out in my home and hope nobody ever finds me. I mean, I've done a few, little interview things, but that's it.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, do you have anything else you want to promote or say, Mr. Dentt, to your fans? Because we've only got about a couple dozen watching right now, but eventually this will rocket up into the low 200s, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yep.
We used to talk about someday I'll be rich, I'll be 100 air. Anyway, thank you guys for having me on, and it's fun to talk about all this stuff. And hey,
it's our pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you so much, man. And we appreciate you coming out and spending your Saturday afternoon. There's probably college football you missed.
Right.
But thank you so much, man. And you like John said, not getting too schmaltzy and goofy, but you did something that brought a lot of joy to a lot of people, man. And you should be happy about that.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me, and take care.
All right, my friend.
Take care, David.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I feel like we were getting like we were about to start.
I think we got
like we were getting about to, like we're going to, I think he was afraid we're going to start trying to hug him or something.
Yeah. I'm
he was
sorry.
like,
I shouldn't have started kissing the camera like that.
You should keep your emotions in check, man. You should.
But
seriously, he's awesome, man. And
he's an amazing guy.
Yeah, and I thought, he had a good sense of humor. I could tell by the interview that's on the Atari 7800 Forever website that he had a good sense of humor, and he's still rocking and rolling.
He's very quick on his feet. He's an awesome guy all around. Don't take off just yet, guys, because I think we got one more thing to get into, right, Vinny?
Yeah, we got a couple more things. We did a podcast last night, and
2 in a row.
Yeah, and we didn't promote either one of them worth a damn because we're idiots, and I just lost it. If you know you're old when you like try to look. Oh my God, it's gone. Anyway, here we go. This is from a guy named Jeremy Holloway. This is from last night's podcast, and we were talking about the excitement of Atari taking over Atari Age and the podcast. I'm going to take all this crap off because David's gone now. So that was just for you, David, if you're still watching. But so we were talking about all the exciting stuff that can happen. And what if we start doing Ninja Golf recharged? What if we do Alien Brigade recharged and Fatal Run? And we were all starting to get excited. And it's like there was a church service, a Pentecostal thing happening. And we talked about Battlezone, right? Like, why is Battlezone missing from the 50th anniversary collection? Why is Pole Position and other games that were pre the sell? We all know the Trammels sold Atari and the Warner Brothers took off with the Atari name and released like Paperboy and Klax
Right.
and Vindicators and Road Blasters and things like this, and Tetris and things that really weren't Atari, but they were Atari in name, San Francisco Rush. But the things that happened before that are missing is interesting. So this is what Jeremy had to say about the thing last night. Battlezone, about a decade ago, was sold to Rebellion Hardware because there was a bankruptcy auction because Atari was mismanaged by Infogrames, obviously, for certain IPs. Someone else purchased Math Grand Prix. Why the hell would you do that?
I don't know why they would buy that, but yeah.
Then it was halted, but Atari arcade titles from 84-1 were property of Atari Games Corp. And then Tengen was their consumer brand. And so you can go back over in last night, and he's got like 2 or 3 paragraphs explaining kind of the stuff we knew about that. But the Battlezone always baffled me because that was one of their bedrock games.
That was an incredible game too, especially the 2600 port was amazing.
It was awesome,
just incredible. Yeah,
and you could they should really try to go get that one back. I think.
Oh yeah.
Because
whoever has it isn't doing anything with it. That's for sure.
Let them have it, man. Let the MFers have it. So we interviewed Tel Chow a couple weeks ago, and he
amazing
was
guy.
It's so weird. I thought the guy was like a recluse or something, and he was like, nobody's talking to me. I'd be willing to get interviewed all the time. So somebody says, "Is Math Grand Prix and Legal Limbo?" Say it ain't so. That is the funniest comment we've heard. I know. We're all waiting with bated breath.
For Math, Math Grand Prix too.
Why in the hell would they sell that anyway? And who would buy it? I mean, I'd buy it for $1,000, right? Maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know.
100?
So
anyway, one of the funniest things is Ricky and Vicky. That's Tel Chow is the creator, lead designer. And the thing that we learned, he took 4 years off from work to make Ricky and Vicky.
Yeah.
That to me to this day, I think nobody's ever really asked him that. And that was the most mind-blowing thing from that interview.
Yep. Ricky and Vicky was his job. Yeah.
And so we're getting information. It's Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz talking about Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet again. But anyway, so Ricky and Vicky was his darling, and so people are now buying the cartridges loose because they're out of print for the 7800. You can still buy them on Steam.
Yeah,
but they're also available with the 7800 GD multi-cart, and comes free with that.
And on penguinnet.com, his website, you can buy it. DRM free there. So if you're worried about Steam going away one day, you could just get it from him.
Oh, wow. I never even thought about Steam going. Surely that won't happen for a long time.
No, that'd be a long time down the road.
But it's probably, that's a good, I see these guys are so smart. Yep. So anyway, you, for some reason, instead of getting this for yourself, it was like I don't know, I thank you from both of you to me, but he gave me a prototype of Ricky and Vicky. He put a label on it, and he said, "Do you want to put a green case or a red case?" And
so he did one of each.
He did a half of each because I said, "You pick which one looks better, baby." And he gave me a split down the middle there. So that's an actual. So he gave me a note that said, "Read me," but basically it says this is without the music that God, what's the guy's name?
Rushjet.
Yeah, Rushjet. This is without Rushjet's music. The second player, the 2-player version is incomplete, and there's some minor.
So it's a development cart.
Yeah, but there's minor differences with that. So there's gameplay differences. So that's exciting. I'll check that out. And thank you, John Silverback, and thank you, Tel Chow, for that. That's awesome. And did David Dentt leave?
Yeah, he left the minute he could. He ran away.
I hope he finds the handwritten code of 7800.
I got his email.
I would like to have that. That would be awesome.
I think it'd be cool to have on the internet too, just a scan of it for people who
just in my house. My house. And people can come over and pay $5.
Yeah, to anybody that missed the Tail Chow Osman podcast. That's on Benny's channel over at let me put this up here. Over at youtube.com/@funkmasterv, which must be your old handle.
Maybe you should just put up like Big and Funky Productions, and people could just put that in a search.
I could do that. Yeah. What do you guys think?
It's a lot of dots and colons and stuff. It's pretty offensive looking.
We should have went over this before we started.
No, you don't have to fix it. I'm just joking.
Oh, hold on.
It looks like crap. But yeah. So anyway, what are you going to do today? Let's see. So we got some good feedback in the group here, and I don't know if we'll do I doubt we'll do a podcast tomorrow, but you always, that's why you got to like and subscribe to these channels and hit the bell. I hate saying that stuff because I feel like a teenage girl, but if you hit notification and we know we're going to do a show, you're going to get an email saying, "Hey, Funkmaster and old Silverback are coming out of the cave, and we're gonna bring some light to some of this cool stuff."
Well, and here's the other: if there's enough interest and you guys really enjoy this show, I'm considering making it at least a monthly, if not sooner thing. Because right now we just go on whenever there's news, whenever I can schedule somebody to come on the show. But if you guys like this stuff and you want to see more, we could make it a monthly deal or whatever.
Bi-monthly, I think.
Maybe twice a year.
I dated a girl that was bi. She was a lot of fun for a little while, so we tried.
Was she monthly?
Well, until she reached a certain age, and then her monthly stuff.
And then it was yearly. Okay.
Yeah.
So, do we have anything else to go over? Or are we?
I don't know. We want to watch Ohio State. Who do you pull for?
Oh, Ohio State all the way.
Oh my God! You realize how disgusting that is, right?
I'm in Toledo. Who do you pull for? You're in Tennessee, so
you don't even have to ask, baby. Go Big Orange. Now I'm a Jets fan. That's what I really am. There's all my Jets crap up there, and this year is going to be fantastic. Take a look at all that stuff.
Hey, it could be a Jets Lions Super Bowl. Wouldn't that be something?
Dude, I got a friend that lives in Detroit, and that's we're talking about that.
Look at all that stuff. Look at all that Atari stuff. You should do a tour of all your.
I was thinking about it.
Cool stuff.
I was waiting to get. The Tempest Legacy arcade from Arcade.
Oh, there you go.
And that would really tie the room together like the Big Lebowski.
Jerome wants us to stream on a regular basis, so we got somebody that'll be there, so we might do it.
I'm Morris Day, you're Jerome. That's how we'll do it from now on, baby.
There you go.
Jungle love.
Jungle love.
Hey, babe. Right. Thank you so much. And I hope you think we did a good job with David. I don't know.
I don't know. Give us some feedback, guys. Did you like David?
Well, David's fine. Did we do a good job questioning the guys? What I want to know.
Did we get, watch it back, see if we got to everything, see if we missed something.
Did we leave something on the table? That's what I feel like we did.
I feel like we did too.
I feel like when I hang up, I'm going to be like, God, why didn't I ask him? God. But then it's too late.
God, we can't end another one with you stroking out there. Oh, no. Jesus Christ, he's going down. All right, guys, I got to call 911. Thank you for tuning in to the 7800 Forever podcast, and we will definitely do this again soon. Oh, he's out. All right, guys, I got to go call 911. Thank you so much for watching.